You're listening to Betrayal Diaries, real people, real pain, real stories. In a world where betrayal often wears a familiar face, some stories are too raw to ignore. This is one of them. Grab your headphones, get comfortable, because what you're about to hear could happen to anyone. Mark and I met during our final semester of college. I still remember the first time I saw him. He was standing at the back of the lecture hall, laughing with a group of friends, exuding confidence in that effortless way some people do. I didn't know then that he would become my husband. I didn't know he would also become the man who would hurt me more deeply than anyone ever had. We were paired together for a group assignment. I thought he was cocky, too confident for someone who barely showed up to class. But he surprised me. He listened when I spoke, challenged my ideas without dismissing them, and made me laugh when I least expected it. After a few late-night study sessions turned into long conversations over coffee, we started dating. It was easy with Mark. He was attentive, charming, and deeply affectionate. We shared dreams of traveling the world, of building a life together where we'd never stop growing. He made me feel like I was the center of his universe. After graduation, we moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. A year later, he proposed at our favorite park, under the same oak tree where we'd shared our first kiss. We married the following spring. The first few years were beautiful. We took spontaneous weekend trips, hosted dinner parties, made love in the kitchen after midnight snacks. We dreamed about our future children, talked about getting a dog, and even created a shared bucket list. We weren't rich, but we were in love. Or, at least, I was. As time passed, the intensity of our relationship began to fade. It didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, like watching the seasons change. At first, I thought it was just the natural progression of long-term commitment. He started coming home later. He said work was becoming more demanding, and I didn't question it. We were saving for a house, after all. I wanted to be supportive. But the late nights turned into weekends away. The romantic texts turned into one-word replies. The cuddles on the couch disappeared, replaced by silence and scrolling on his phone. I tried to initiate date nights, but he always seemed too tired or too busy. I planned a weekend getaway for our anniversary, but he canceled last minute due to a work emergency. I began to feel invisible. One night, I asked him if he was okay, if we were okay. He smiled that tired smile and told me he loved me, that I was overthinking things, and maybe I was. Maybe I just missed the honeymoon phase. Maybe this was what marriage looked like after a few years. But my gut whispered otherwise. It was a rainy Thursday. I had a migraine and left work early. Mark had told me he'd be working late. I planned to go straight to bed, but I realized I had left my phone charger in his car. When I opened the back door, I saw it. A single silver earring lying on the seat. It wasn't mine. My stomach dropped. I picked it up and stared at it, 1,000 thoughts racing through my head. I didn't jump to conclusions. I told myself it could belong to someone he gave a ride to, a coworker, maybe. When he got home, I asked him about it. He barely blinked, said it probably belonged to a colleague, that he didn't remember. He was calm, too calm. I wanted to believe him, but that night I couldn't sleep. Something didn't feel right. I started paying closer attention. I noticed he always kept his phone face down. He changed his passcode. He took calls in the bathroom. One night, he fell asleep with his phone unlocked. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. I didn't want to be that person, but I already was. What I found wasn't just a single affair. It was a series of messages with a woman named Madison. They were graphic, flirtatious, and worse, intimate. They talked about things he never talked about with me. Inside jokes, future plans, places they'd been together. I felt like I was drowning. I confronted him the next morning. He denied it, said it was just flirting, that nothing happened physically. I didn't believe him. After hours of yelling, crying, begging, and silence, he admitted to sleeping with her. It happened during a business trip, more than once. I asked him to leave. He did, but he came back the next morning. He was crying, he brought flowers, he said he wanted to change. And somehow, I let him. We went to therapy. He quit his job, said he wanted to focus on us. He deleted social media, changed his number, gave me access to everything. It was hard, but there were moments when I thought maybe, just maybe, we could survive this. He made breakfast in bed. He left me little notes. He planned dates. We talked more. We even made love again, slowly, cautiously. We cried afterward. It felt like rediscovery. We talked about starting a family again, about moving to a new place, leaving the past behind. I wanted to believe in us, but deep down, I wasn't sure if I could ever trust him again. As the months passed, things started slipping. He became distant again, claimed he was applying for jobs, but rarely had interviews, said he was working on personal projects, but never showed me anything. I asked if he was okay. He said I was being paranoid. Then one day, while he was showering, I checked his laptop. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just uneasy. That's when I saw it. A hidden folder named Work Archive. Inside were hundreds of files, photos, videos, screenshots, chat logs, dating profiles, fake names. It wasn't just Madison. There were at least 7 other women, some during our marriage, some while we were still engaged. He had lived a double life. I felt like I couldn't breathe. That evening, I waited for him to come home. I sat at the kitchen table with the laptop open. He walked in, smiling. I told him to sit. He saw the screen, froze, didn't speak. I asked him how long. He said, since before we got married. He told me he never stopped, that it wasn't about love, it was compulsion, addiction. He begged me to help him. I told him I already had. I had given him everything, and now I had nothing left. I told him to leave. He didn't fight it this time. I filed for divorce the next morning. I moved in with my sister, cried until my eyes were raw. I went to therapy alone. I journaled every night. I blocked him on everything. Weeks turned into months. I started writing again. I adopted a dog. I planted a small herb garden on my apartment balcony. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I hated him. Some days I missed him. Some nights I still woke up reaching for the other side of the bed. But slowly, I remembered who I was before him and who I was despite him. I took a solo trip to the mountains. I hiked. I watched the sunrise. I cried under the stars. And I forgave myself for staying too long, for loving too hard, for not listening to my instincts. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant letting go of the grip he had on my heart. A year later, I published a short story. It was about a woman who walked away from a life built on lies and started over. It was fiction, but also it wasn't. I met new people. I laughed again. I danced in my living room on rainy nights. I fell in love with myself, with life, with the future I hadn't planned. Mark reached out once, sent a letter. I didn't open it. I burned it. Because some things don't deserve space in your new beginning. And that's what this is. A beginning. My beginning. My beginning. Thank you for listening to today's story on Betrayal Diaries. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. We believe that sharing the truth, no matter how painful, can help someone else find theirs. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment if you've ever walked away from something that wasn't love. Have a story of your own? Send it to us anonymously at dual.shadowtq@gmail.com. Until next time, choose yourself.